Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter when the ship starts sailing. And I'd like to welcome to the show tonight, all the way from Detroit, Michigan, from Pack Your Pixie Dust. How you doing tonight, Christy?
I am well, Steve. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm pretty excited. Guess what month is it that we've moved into?
No idea. It's like mid-September.
It's mid-September, which we're getting closer to your favorite month, October, when the ghouls and the goblins and all the bats come out and we talk about Halloween.
It feels like Halloween weather this week. It's like we're in your state. It's a little wet. It's rainy. It's cold.
Let's turn it back a little ways. Let's go back to March. And I'd like to welcome to the show tonight, Rebecca from Atlanta. How are you doing tonight, Rebecca?
I'm well. I'm very well. Thank you.
Well, thanks for reaching out. And I think this is going to be kind of an interesting show. We talked to Lake and Katie. They were on the second to the last sailing of the Disney Dream. And your family ended up on the last sailing, didn't you?
We did. It was a bit of an interesting time, knowing kind of down to the wire, trying to figure out if we were going to make that sailing or not. But we're very grateful to have had a bit of a calm before the storm.
I actually had clients that were supposed to leave for the next sailing, the one on Saturday on the Fantasy. They were in Florida, and then it got canceled on them.
That was definitely something we were worried about. I think they called Disney World. I want to say it was the we left on the 13th. So I want to say it was the 11th or 12th. They were like, okay, Disney World on Sunday, the 15th, it's done for who knows how long. And I think around that same time, I think it was like the day after, within a few hours, they announced that the last sailing would be our sailing. I was at least still already in Florida at a hotel. So I was very much hoping they would not call it. So I'm glad we made it. But if anything, we were like, well, we can at least set foot on the beach if this doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Disney is really creative with their marketing. It's too bad they didn't think of some shirt that they could have gotten rushed. Did anybody on your cruise come up with anything like that? Like Corona sailing or...
No, I don't remember any shirts. To be honest, there weren't a lot of people on the cruise. I think the final call was about 40% capacity from what we were told. But there were plenty of folks, including ourselves, who didn't totally realize the seriousness. And so we toasted with Coronas once we got on board. We were not alone in that. So I feel okay about it. But looking back, I'm like, oh, if we'd only known, I might not have done that.
It's actually kind of fun now because nothing happened. We talked before the show, you guys. I'm just going to cut to the chase at the end. Nobody reported any Corona symptoms or any positive results after the cruise. So at least as far as we all know, nothing from that cruise resulted in a positive case. So that meant that anything that occurred during the cruise was fine. That's the way I look at it.
I'm pretty excited that you guys went too, because by completing this cruise, what happened afterwards?
Yes, this was my 5th sailing. So I am officially a gold castaway member, which is exciting. I don't know when I'll get to use those benefits, but I hope it'll be soon.
It's huge when you get to those bookings, those early bookings and everything like that. It opens up a whole new world as far as being able to get the sailings that you want, maybe the cabins you want. And well, we're still not going to get those cabanas, right, Christy?
Yeah.
I can't even get it now. I'm platinum, which I've never sailed as platinum either because of course it happened. And then, this all happened. So, but they're holding them back because on my one cruise, I think we talked about this already, but there were many concierge cabins available to be booked and there wasn't a cabana to be had. Now, if you do the math, there are more cabanas than there are concierge cabins. But if you just look at it historically, there were cabanas available. They're just not these days. So no one's getting cabanas.
Well, congratulations, Rebecca. It's always good to move up to that next level in the Castaway Club. So on to gold. So let's kind of go back to your cruising and maybe Disney background. Is this a cruise that you guys normally take a 3-day on the Dream? Or what was special about this? I don't want to say special, but why did you guys do this cruise? And what is your Disney background? Have you always been sailing with Disney, or was it the parks that came first? Or tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am one of the crazy people who has only ever sailed on the Dream. So of all of the 5 sailings, they've all been 3-night and 4 nights on the Dream, which the woman who checked me out at one of the stores on board on this last one, she was asking what I'd sailed, and basically her jaw dropped to the floor. And she was like, "You have to go on the Magic or the Wonder." I'm like, "I know, I'm trying." Part of the issue there is that I am Disney Cruise obsessed, but I never really want to go by myself. And so the challenge is often getting someone to kind of be my cruise buddy. And usually with that means that there's limited time to actually take off and go on a cruise. So we've typically done the 3-night just because it's over a weekend. Often it's over like a long weekend. So we've done Memorial Day sailings and things that just allows like my family, or the first sailing I did was with one of my friends, allows us to kind of bookmark that, or what is that, bookend that, or something, sandwich it. That's the right word. Sandwich it between work weeks. So it's helped that way. And honestly, it allows us to do a few more than we normally would be able to, just financially. It can sometimes be helpful. And when you're sailing on those weird weekends, I found that they're a little bit less expensive. I often look at like the cost per person per night, and I'm like, ooh, that's a deal. But it kind of started. I mean, we always had like Disney movies and stuff growing up, and we went to the parks. My first time at the parks and only time was actually when I graduated college. So it was my graduation from college, my brother's graduation from high school. And so we were like, let's take a family trip. And we ended up going to Disney World, and it was lovely. And so I've always like really enjoyed having that outlet, and have kind of tried to find a place for play again. There came a point where one of my friends and I were trying to like plan a trip, and her mom was like, well, why don't you do a cruise? It's usually all inclusive, like you'll have a great time. And we started looking into it, and over and over, when you're searching for like best cruise line, whether you're searching for one for families or not, Disney comes up. And so we were like, well, let's try. And it was one of the coolest and best vacations I've ever had, because we were adults sailing on a family cruise, or what's typically a family cruise. We had like the adult pool to ourselves, Serenity Bay to ourselves. And so I booked a placeholder and have always booked placeholders ever since, and keep going back whenever I can.
Steve, have you ever been to Serenity Bay?
No, I have never been to Serenity Bay.
I haven't either. So I feel like we need to. That's required now. We're podcasters. For the show, we have to ditch our children and go to Serenity Bay at some point.
And I'm thinking that Rebecca has never traveled with children, so maybe we need to like all travel together. She can hang out with our kids, and you and I can go over to Serenity Bay, and she can see what it's like over there on the kids' beach.
I will gladly trade off. I've always kind of wondered what it would be like to see it through a kid's eyes. I think it would be so fun. We love to sit kind of in the atrium between meals and watch just all the kids meet the characters and dance. And I think it would be so fun.
Well, I know that you'll have your opportunity at some point in the future, but let's turn back to this cruise now. Leading up to it, is we were kind of talking about ahead of time. Eventually, Disney starts to shut down, and we can't all go back. I can't remember exactly everything that was going on with COVID, but what were some of the things? Who was supposed to go on this cruise, and what were some of the things that you guys are thinking about before you embarked?
Yeah, so it was supposed to actually be my immediate family. So my mom, dad, adult brother, and then another brother who would be turning 18 on the cruise. And then my aunt and uncle were going to fly in from West Virginia. Just with all the chaos kind of around COVID, especially that week, that was really where we were starting to realize that things were spreading, that it had made it to the US, and that there were starting to be some hints of CDC travel advisories, more than just like, okay, if you travel, take a couple weeks at home. It was definitely getting more serious. And so my aunt and uncle opted not to come on the cruise. And I think they made that decision right when Disney announced that they'd be able to basically put what they paid towards the cruise towards future sailing. I think, and Chrissy, you might know more, I think that they have to use that, or they, at least at the original release of that, it was supposed to be within a year. That puts us in March of 2021, which we haven't scheduled anything yet. So I'm not sure how that'll work, and I'm sure we'll kind of navigate that when the time comes.
Yeah, they have pushed that back. I assume it's for all of the cruises, but they're definitely giving more time for people to use their cruise credit. Basically, it's still anything, and this is for in general. So again, I'm not entirely sure if it's for that original March cruise because I didn't have clients that canceled the cruise that late at this point, but they can book anything currently available.
You can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Christy, but I found like through DVC, some of the things that we've had kind of snafus with them over this. I think Disney's really bent over backwards. And if like March is not going to work for you guys, I would definitely call them up and say, hey, this is what happened. We were on the sailing and March just isn't going to work for us, and see what they can work with you, because I think that they've been over backwards for a lot of people. So doesn't mean that they will. I don't know all the specifics of it, but do you think I'm out of line in saying that, Christy?
No, they're definitely doing a case-by-case basis for certain things. So people should look into it. They should also look because there's potentially already an email and we can look online. And the beauty of it is, and I don't know, Rebecca, if you use travel agents to book your cruises, they can continue to use a travel agent, or if they didn't use one, they could get a new travel agent to help go through all those things too if they needed and wanted.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely. There are many benefits to using a travel agent. Well, I know that it was a lot of work on her. We worked with one, and I know she, bless her, was trying to deal with our cancellations and questions and all of that, as well as I'm sure many, many other people's at that point in time. But yeah, did everything within her power to like forward us emails and send us up-to-date information. And so while I was trying to keep up with it myself, it was really helpful to also have that.
I hesitate to say that. I'd hate for anybody to call Disney expect anything, but it's worth asking the question and being polite with them. You never know what kind of magic they can work for you. So they decide not to go, but you guys decide to go. What was that like? Getting down to the port and getting on the Dream again during that kind of environment.
We had definitely several family meetings about it virtually because we were driving in from different places. But I think part of it was that we were driving. And so we knew that we had some control over kind of the environment going to and from. And so that was one of the reasons we decided to go. We also, my dad was just like, I feel safer with Disney than I do on land right now. And we knew that capacity would be a lot less than normal. And we knew that Disney just normally has really, really stringent safety measures. Granted, this was before we knew that things were in the air, that we needed to wear masks, things like that. At the time, the rules were wash your hands. That's basically all we knew. And so we were like, hey, we already wash our hands all the time on cruises, so we'll be fine. We were fairly optimistic going in, but we also knew that it was a risk. And just kind of knowing we were relatively healthy, we were like, we'll take this risk. I think if we were to do it again, we might second guess it a little bit, but all things considered, we're really fortunate that to our knowledge, there were no breakouts and everybody was healthy.
So Rebecca, what changes did you experience? Like even starting at check-in and then on board, what changes, what things were different?
So officially the only like check-in change that they externally told us was that we would have to fill out a form basically saying we hadn't been, I think, to China in the last 2 weeks. Maybe it was a month at that point. And then that we would get our temperature checked before we went in. Those absolutely happened. It's kind of an honor system, honestly. And the temperature check was super, super straightforward and not challenging at all. But what I really thought was interesting, and I don't know if this was an official change, but they kept us at the check-in desk a lot longer than normal. Typically, it's a pretty seamless process. And he kind of he said there was an issue with the printing of the Keys to the World cards, which sure, technology happens. But he also sat there kind of making a lot of jokes with us and just sort of, I felt like he was trying to get a gauge to see if any of us were coughing or like maybe trying to cover being sick. And honestly, I appreciated it. There was hardly anyone in the terminal. So yeah, hardly anyone in the terminal. And so it wasn't really a bother to sit there and talk with him. It was kind of enjoyable, but I was like, I wonder if he was told to do that with everybody.
It's a good point. It's very, it's very likely that he could have been.
To think about, as you said, it's kind of like at the beginning. Well, I'm not right at the very beginning, but kind of the beginning, and things are changing, and people really didn't know what.
Right.
what was the best protocol, and people are trying to put protocol into place. So I'm sure they're trying different things. Once you got on board, Rebecca, what was different there? Obviously, probably a lot of hand washing station, or not hand washing, but more emphasis on the hand washing at that time.
The hand sanitizer stations, which like normally if you get off in Nassau or Castaway Cay, they have those right before you get on the ship. They had them also when we were getting on the ship for embarkation. We went up to Cabanas. We're huge Cabanas fans, especially when we're like some of the only people on the ship. That's kind of a nice thing to do. And so they had announced ahead of time that we would not be self-serving at Cabanas or at like the drink stations or ice cream or anything like that. And so they had a lot of cast members standing and serving the food. So at every, how Cabanas has kind of those stations, they had one or two people there serving the food for you outside of the station. So it wasn't behind the wall. Same with the beverages. So you just said like, hey, can I have a Coke or a tea or whatever it is? And they would get that for you.
How did that seem to work?
It was sort of twofold. I think they had more people out there than they normally would. So I know it was probably a strain on the crew and just having to do more, but there were also fewer people to serve. And so I felt like it wasn't a bother. It felt like lines moved incredibly quickly if there were any at all. But we also, just being one of the first boarding groups, we were pretty much done eating by the time a lot of other folks, I think, had made it on board. So for us, it didn't feel too busy or kind of painful, I guess. But I could imagine that if like capacity is higher on the ship, if there are more people, that it could get a little bit busy.
So like now, if you go to a hotel, generally you're not going to have somebody, especially if you're spending more than one night there, you're not going to have anybody come into your room. Did they talk about any of the actual changes when you were on board there with your stateroom host?
No, our stateroom host, I think there weren't many rooms that he was assigned to. So he gave us some extra attention and was just so sweet. And, he put like Moana sheets on my bed one night because he's like, you're the princess. I'm like, I'm 28 years old, but okay.
That's awesome.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, it just was so sweet. And I felt like was coming in and cleaning and just giving us some more time, just partially probably because he had it, but also just it did feel kind of nice to have a little bit of extra love, I suppose.
Did you share a room? Were you sharing a room that trip?
Yeah, so we did 2 veranda staterooms and they were connecting. So my parents had one of them and then my brothers and I shared the other. So because my brothers are 6 feet, I gave them the main bed and I stayed in the little like day bed, sofa bed.
I was wondering if that's where you got your sheets. So that's awesome. That would have been worth it.
The boys got Toy Story pillows. So he went all out for us.
I think this is one that just kind of breaks my heart until we get past this, because that's one of my favorite parts about being on the ship is your stateroom host. If you have a good stateroom host, I think that goes right up there with your servers when you're at dinner. That can really make your cruise, can it, guys?
No, for real.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't want to jump around too much, but our dining team was also really similar. We were their only table during second seating.
Oh my God.
So they were amazing and we got to know them really well. And there was obviously a lot of like fear and anxiety going on. And so we just got to chat with them. We wish they could have like sat down at the table with us, but that wasn't allowed. At least, well, they didn't say that, but we kind of got the vibe that they probably couldn't do that. But they hung out with us and they kind of became part of the family for those very few short days.
Did you notice anything different with the dining in the dining room besides no people?
Because there were fewer people, they definitely spread us out. So we did not, like there was a picture I was looking at the other day and there were no other people around us, like within 3 or 4 tables all around us. They did the best they could, I think, to spread everybody out. But I don't remember anything super different. It felt pretty normal, honestly. There wasn't anything that felt kind of out of the ordinary or other than the anxiety around like what was next, which a lot of the crew members I think were trying to figure out. It didn't feel very different than kind of the normal sailing.
So how about just the overall vibe with the rest of the passengers then? Did you find yourself talking about a lot of that? Were you able to just have some fun and kind of disconnect from the real world while you're out there? What was that kind of like?
Yeah, it went in waves because this was the weekend right before a lot of the schools stopped meeting and everything. So we had some amazing, amazing times. I think like especially Castaway Cay Day, I think that was where we really got to just sort of mentally check out because we were outside on Disney's private island and we got to rent the bikes and go explore, which was actually a first for me on all of the sailings. And so that was super fun. And then just kind of being able to just sort of relax, and we didn't have technology. None of us got like the internet plan or anything, but texts were still coming through. So like my brother found out that he wouldn't be going back to school on Tuesday, I guess, when he got back into town. So there were certain moments in there that kind of felt big and sort of like, oh, the world's going to be different when we come out on the other side of this. And then you also just had the cast members who, upon prompting, it wasn't necessarily volunteered, but upon prompting kind of shared that like their daughters weren't in school anymore and they weren't quite sure how they would be handling that. And then there were a couple folks we talked to who were supposed to, I think their contracts were up in the next couple of weeks, but they were pretty sure they wouldn't be able to get home. So there's just a lot of uncertainty. And also they were told, I think, that they would still be working like 8-hour days, which that makes sense. I think if we're all at work, we're going to work. But they were like, we don't really know what that means when there's nobody on board. Yeah, I know they were going to be, and they ended up actually going Castaway Cay a few times to literally set feet on land. And so they were excited to maybe have some opportunity that they wouldn't normally have to kind of explore the island and the ship a little bit too.
It was a 3-day cruise. So as it kind of comes to an end, you get to head back to Port Canaveral. What was it like getting off the ship and kind of looking back on it? What are your thoughts of being on that last dream sailing, at least for now?
It's wild. I mean, I think, you meet a lot of people along the way and you wonder kind of what's happened in the last 6 months in their lives and sort of what's their journey been like. And I think kind of coming off of the ship, we went on, knowing that COVID was a thing, knowing that the pandemic was happening, but not really understanding all of it. And like in those 3 days, quite a lot more information came out and a lot of things changed in the US. And so it really was kind of like stepping off and you're like trying to get your phone to load to understand like, there were rumors going around that like Atlanta had closed. So I couldn't even like get back to my apartment. And so I was like trying to fact find there and figure out like, can I even go back home? I could, it was fine. But you get those random texts every once in a while and you're like, I can't actually Google this myself. So I'm like texting my boss of all people. And I'm like, can you tell me what's going on? But, we made it through. And I think for our family, it was just really, really lovely having those moments to share. It was kind of a big trip for us aside from the pandemic. It was my youngest brother's like last trip before he went to college this year. And so you just never quite know when that next family trip is going to be. And so I know like my mom especially just views it as a really precious time that we were able to have just the 5 of us, which was really special.
Well, it's great that you guys were able to, I don't even know how to say it the right way, but, make, even though it was kind of a crazy time, be able to connect and spend that time together as a family and find all the pluses out of it. So I just hope, and I know I think we all feel this way. You just can't hope to start that journey again for all of us, right?
Mm-hmm. And you have a heck of a story,
Yes.
to have your like, maybe last family vacation as the 5 of you for a while, and then to have it be the last cruise before the pandemic, that cruises didn't sail for months and months and months. Like I was not prepared to have it go here, where it went. And so it's really, you have a great story now.
Yeah, it definitely hits you in the feels. It's definitely really special. And it's kept us going. I think I was one of those people who was starting to try to cruise like every 6 or 9 months. And so now we're at like that 6-month point and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for my Disney fix now, please. Yeah, it's nice to have it, at least kind of the memories to relive right now.
Just on a total side note, we'll talk about just some experiences cruising, but have you thought about going down to the parks at all since they've opened back up, or have you gone down to the parks?
I have not gone. I've definitely thought about it. My roommate has some family there, and so she's talked about going, and I'm like, I wonder if I could hitch a ride along and join you. Especially working remotely, I'm like, I've got all this flexibility now. Maybe I'll go. Maybe in the next couple months, I might have to make a journey back there.
You should totally do it.
Yes. Yeah. It's going to have to probably happen.
And people have a million vacation days that they haven't been using because there was nowhere to go for so many months. So I would suggest going during the week if you can swing it, if those days could work out, because it's a lot less crowded.
Yes. Yeah. I saw some pictures from the Labor Day weekend, and I'm very glad I didn't even try for that weekend. So definitely middle of the week, fewer people as possible.
Yes.
So let's just kind of have a little bit of fun here. We'll just talk about Disney Cruise Line, some of your experiences. You've been on the Dream the entire time. I'm assuming that they probably have like a plaque out by your room. This is Rebecca's room, so this is the only ship you sail on, and maybe they'll have to like pry it off and put it over on the Magic someday. But I'm kind of curious. So I'm looking at this one, and it is you left Port Canaveral, you went to Castaway Cay, then you had a day at sea, and then you came back. So you didn't go to the Bahamas. What's your thought on that? Do you like going to the Bahamas? What's your favorite itinerary of the Dream then?
Oh, this was probably my favorite itinerary that we have done yet, just because, and I think you guys have talked about it. Like normally you have Castaway Cay Day and then you get off the ship. And like we had the amazing thing of like Castaway Cay Day and then a sea day, and then we got off the ship. But like, it was just so fun to kind of have the experience that you would often have on a 4-day on like a weekend cruise. And so that was really special. But yeah, I mean, Nassau, I've done Nassau. I've done it where it's been like Castaway Cay and then Nassau. And I've done it where it's been Nassau and then Castaway Cay. And honestly, I don't mind it. Usually I'm going with people who have never gone on a cruise before or have never been to Nassau. So typically we've gotten off and we've done maybe like a half-day excursion or something there, and it's been perfectly fine. But I'm one of those folks who is very, very content to stay on the ship as much as possible and just kind of enjoy the quiet of the adult-only area or a coffee in the cafe. Definitely really enjoy just kind of the rest and relaxation that comes with that.
Did you guys try Palo then on your day?
I have never been to Palo, which is the saddest thing. I've tried to go every time, and most of the time, like I said, someone on the trip has never been on DCL before. And because it's usually been 3 nights or 4 nights when I've gone, we don't want to miss one of the main dining restaurants. And then often they're like, well, I mean, I'm fine to just kind of enjoy the ship. We've only got a couple of days. So why would I want to spend half a day at brunch? And
you do want to spend half a day at brunch.
So I know. So next time I have gotten promises from any person who would possibly go with me that I am going, whether they like it or not. I will go by myself. I've watched so many YouTube videos of that buffet. It has to happen.
Well, if my cruise sails December 18th, you are welcome to get a cabin and come with us, and you can join my husband and I for brunch.
Do not tempt me. I'm one of the people who has booked cruises 2 weeks in advance. I will do it.
If it sails, you are welcome to come with us. We will put a plate. I will tell them to have you join us for dinner. It'll be fine. We'll adopt you, and then you can cruise with a kid.
I would love it.
Oh, and she fits on the bed at the end of the bed anyways.
No. That wasn't the offer.
I'll get my own. I'll probably be deck 2, but we'll find each other.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I'll tell you where I'm at.
So you've watched all those videos. What is it about the brunch that you want to try? Do you have a favorite food? Is there something that you're just like dying to try that you've seen or talked about or heard?
Okay, so I've heard amazing things about the sticky buns. I will say that I think the Cove Cafe might have had a couple of them on this last sailing. They weren't in the warmer, so they weren't necessarily like super ooey gooey and fresh, but they were pretty good. So I would have to maybe go to the brunch to try those. I've also heard amazing things about the Mickey waffle. I'm a huge waffle fan, and I've heard the Palo one is like amazing. There are a couple things, and honestly, just who can pass up a whole tray, like a whole table of desserts? Oh,
You really do know a lot about your Palo brunch. I'm impressed.
As someone who has never tried it, I know way too much.
Yeah, no, all those things though that you spoke of. Well, I mean, I haven't tried the sticky buns because the one time I cruised DCL, not as a celiac, or maybe twice. Either way, we were by ourselves. Blake was an infant. We didn't do brunch.
Yep.
And so I missed my opportunity for sticky buns.
So I'm kind of curious, Christy's got Blake and I've got two, although I can't lie. My wife and I get some time away from the kids because they want to be away from us too, to be completely honest. But tell us about these adult only spaces, Rebecca. What is it about them that you like? Where do you like to find yourself? It sounds like up at Satellite Falls or by the adult pool. What other places do you like to hang out on the ship during a sea day?
Yeah, so there's something magical that Disney has somehow figured out. I don't know what it is. It's beyond soundproofing. You walk through the kids' pool area, you might get a beverage or an ice cream, and you keep on walking to that adults only area. And the second you walk, there's not even a door. It's just a little like weaving in and out of a couple of, walls, and you can't hear the kids anymore. And it's really
so true.
So I do try to spend a fair amount of time at the pool. The last couple sailings, it's been pretty full just because I think we've gone on like times where maybe kids didn't have the days off. And so there were a lot of adults sailing. I enjoy hanging out there. I also really enjoy, like you said, Satellite Falls, basically anywhere I can go and just kind of sit and maybe have a drink or a coffee or something. Sometimes I'll read a book. Sometimes I literally just sit there because I feel like kind of in real life, I'm on the go all the time. And so it's my goal with the cruises is just to not have a schedule and to kind of play it by ear and figure out just what do I want to do in that moment? And usually it's sit and do nothing.
No, I love that. I mean, and that's the beauty of the cruises. It's like there's so much stuff going on around you. You can go take that in if you want to, or if you just want to relax and chill from, being at work for the last several months, you can do that as well.
That's what I do when I have a few minutes. I mean, I know, Steve, you're all off doing the fitness and things, but when Dave and I have a minute without our son, who we love very much, who's standing right next to me right now for a second, we just made the little noise. We do nothing. And it is heaven.
While you're luxuriating on the beautiful Disney Dream, do you ever try the spa, Rebecca? Are you a spa person? The rainforest room, maybe?
I want to say like 2 or 3 times I've done massages in the spa, which have actually been really nice. They're pretty pricey, but when I got back to Atlanta, I was like, oh, I really kind of enjoyed that. I wonder if there's a spot in Atlanta I could find a nice massage. It's more expensive here. So I'm like, okay, I can justify paying. Now, granted, like I'm in the heart of Atlanta. And of course, like the only stuff around me is like the Four Seasons and like really nice places. So they're pretty pricey and kind of Disney standards too. So that's part of why. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I've not done the rainforest room, but that's also on my list of something I'd really like to do. Maybe the next one, or like if there's a day at sea on a future sailing.
When you come in December.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll have time.
Yeah, the showers in the rainforest room are super cool. And they would I forget what they're like, these heated lounges, like they were like rocks almost. They were always busy when we were there, my wife and I, that time. But I've heard that those are amazing. So it might be a good place to read a book.
Yes, that sounds amazing. No, I actually have looked into them. It used to be, I think you could really easily like gift them to people. And I tried to do that for my aunt and uncle this last time, right before they'd canceled. And it didn't look like it was super easy to navigate to it anymore. But it's definitely something I've considered as a self gift as well.
I think you deserve it.
Yeah.
What about some of the specialty sailings? Have you been on a Halloween on the High Seas or Very Merry? Or do you have a favorite between them?
We've sailed twice now the weekend after Halloween on the High Seas. So every once in a while you'll find like a stray pumpkin sticker on a window or something like that. Or they'll still have the Halloween cups. But we've not done an actual themed sailing.
With the 3 restaurants on board, do you have a favorite? Are you an Animators fan, or maybe Royal Court, and I'm totally drawing a blank on the third one.
Yeah, Enchanted Garden.
Enchanted Garden.
So I'm not an Animators fan.
What?
That's okay. That's okay.
No, Steve. It's okay. It is not. Never mind, Rebecca, you cannot come with us. I'm kidding.
We had probably the best experience I've had on this last sailing, but I like a more traditional dinner, more of like a sit down, like let's actually get dressed up, like let's like do it all out.
You've only had the animators menu.
Yes.
Is the issue, because the animators menu is awful. I mean, does anybody like that menu?
I have found one or two things over the years
that you can eat.
Like. The black truffle persets are yummy. I also do really like their tuna steak. I didn't know that I liked tuna steak, and now I make it all the time because of Disney. So I have learned to ask our server what they recommend, and almost always they have been on point. So like the first couple sailings, I'm like, I know what I like. I'm not going to venture out. And then finally I'm like, but I haven't found anything at this restaurant that I like. And so I asked, and he's like, you might like this tuna steak, and got it. And I've ordered it now 2 or 3 times since. So that's become my go-to. I think I always get Enchanted Garden and is it Royal Palace, I think, mixed up.
So Enchanted Garden is the one on deck 2, and Royal Palace is the one in the middle.
Yeah, their menus always remind me of one another. I want to say though, Royal Palace is probably my favorite. Just even the details of like, I think it's Cinderella. Scenes, and you know, that's like the Disney movie that every little girl watches growing up, and so I've got a special place in my heart for that one. Like
the bread basket and all the little detail across the
table numbers that have the silhouette of Cinderella and Prince Charming. I want them. I want them in my life.
Don't you just want to put them all in your purse? Just, you know, just nothing to see here. Disney needs to learn to sell all of it, because we will buy all of it.
You would think they would have caught on to that by now.
They figured out the knife at Animator's Palace, but that's it. That's all they figured out.
That's all.
The hand towel. I need that hand towel with the DCL logo in the middle. The little bar napkins. I need it all.
Everything. I'll buy it. Just put your logo on it. I'll buy it.
Right.
Okay, so besides the dinners, or besides the restaurants, how about like some of the evening entertainment? Do you enjoy the shows, or do you like to go down to kind of the adult only areas and take on the shows down there, some trivia or Match Your Mate or things like that?
I really do enjoy going to the shows. Beauty and the Beast on the Dream is amazing. My first sailing though, they didn't have that, so we saw Villains Tonight, which I wasn't a fan of.
Do you generally like Villains or?
No, but my friends who went loved it, and she loved Villains. She was heartbroken to find out that if she ever goes with me again, that they won't have that on board. So there are people who love it. It just wasn't my thing, but I'm stoked that they replaced it with Beauty and the Beast. I've now seen Beauty and the Beast, I know for sure 4 times, but I feel like there was one sailing where we might have seen it twice, but I could be making that up. And I will go see it every time we sail. I love it.
That's impressive. Do you get the refillable popcorn bucket?
Yes. I think second sailing, we bought the refillable popcorn buckets, and they've traveled with us each time. We always ask, we're like, hey, this is from a different cruise. Are you guys sure we're okay? And they're like, yeah, no problem. We may be one of the only people, I don't know if that's official DCL guidelines. We were actually really surprised on this last sailing that they let us use them, just because, you know, we were bringing them on board, and you just never know with like FDA or CDC guidelines or whatever. But they were like, yeah, sure, it's fine. Yeah, you can't really pass up, what is it, like $1.50 popcorn refill?
Yeah, I think it's like $2.02 now or something. But yeah. It's the best popcorn ever as well.
So good.
Since we have an expert from the Dream on board this podcast, what are some of the tips that you would give people sailing on the Dream for the first time, Rebecca? There's like that hidden space by Skylines that people talk about. We went out there. I don't know if it was all that exciting, but what are some of your favorite places for people that people might want to explore when they're on the Dream?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, because it's the only thing I've sailed on, I don't have a point of comparison.
That's okay. Just talk about what you love about the Dream.
She probably doesn't know the hidden spaces because she doesn't know what is not on another ship.
True.
Well, that's true.
But I've listened to y'all's podcast enough that I kind of do know.
Yeah. I mean, she knows the Palo menu after all. So she actually probably knows better than we do, Steve.
She can tell us where to go on the Magic next time we're on board, right, Christy?
Oh,
Probably.
You've got to try this out. It's amazing. It was like, what? We never knew about it. So
yeah, it is always interesting knowing some tip or trick, especially like about kids related stuff. When it's like, I've never sailed with kids, but I can give you this advice. But yeah, I love just all the little details that Disney does. So just walking the stairs and seeing like the artwork. And I'm a huge fan of just the classic Disney films. And so seeing like kind of the hand sketched art around the ship and just kind of, just taking it in, it gives you this feeling of just like you're around creativity, but also calm. And so I just,
look at it.
it's really a peaceful thing for me. Let's see. I don't know anything specific to the Dream, but I love just walking around. I will say this last cruise, we had a mixology class in the Meridian Lounge, and I'd never been there, and I couldn't find it.
Oh no!
So like I'm a stickler for like I am the crazy person who's like I will be early to everything, and I was late to the mixology class, and you walk in and you're like everyone stares at you, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm sorry I couldn't find it. But finally I got there.
Did you do that by yourself?
One of my brothers did it with me, the one who was not 18. But we were meeting up from different things, and so he was kind of sitting there like, what took you so long?
Did the 18-year-old, I know he didn't go to the 18 to 21 society club stuff, but did he go to the club while he was not 18 yet?
No. So we got on board Friday afternoon, which was like the day before he turned 18. So that was actually one of the questions I had. I was like, are they going to let him like go to the adult areas that night? Like, and then I was like, they don't actually check your Key to the World card unless you're buying something. And he's not an obnoxious teenager or like anything like that. He was with our family. He very much looks 18, if not a little older. So we technically broke the rules on Friday night, and he went to match your mate with us as a family. He very quickly realized that my brother and I were going to embarrass him like crazy if he stayed. So he went back to the room after Match Your Mate because he didn't want us to embarrass him with what was it, a silent DJ party. He was not a fan of that.
Did you do it?
We did. Yes. So it's so fun. It's so hilarious just watching a bunch of people, all adults in our case, with these headphones on, and they're like singing along like they're in the shower to like Bon Jovi or something. And it's fantastic. But you've got like 3 different stations. And so like everyone's listening to some other music. So you've got like someone over here dancing salsa, someone over here singing Bon Jovi, someone over here who's like blasting out a country song. And it's like, this is great. Nobody cares because we're only going to see each other for 3 days. And then we get to go on our way. And, kind of like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Sometimes what happens on a Disney cruise stays on a Disney cruise.
Well, I think that's the first time I've heard that.
It's still PG. Don't worry. It's still very PG.
I love it. Should we do a lightning round? We haven't done one of these forever.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of questions for you. We'll put you on the spot. Then I got a final question for you too, Rebecca. All right. Favorite drink?
Oh, I can never remember what it's called, but it's a mix of a pina colada with a banana. That is like my go-to. I've since learned to make it at home.
It's like a dirty something, isn't it?
I don't think they call it that,
but
a banana carabay. I always say it wrong. Banana carabay or something. Someone will correct me out there, I hope. And hopefully send me the actual recipe because mine has been made up and it's not quite right. But yeah, that is my like poolside drink. And then in the evenings, they make the best espresso martini like I've ever had. I know you probably shouldn't have espresso at 8:00 at night, but it's become my tradition whenever I'm on board.
Maybe that needs to be my tip, Steve, to keep me up later, is that I'll have an espresso martini. Is there somewhere in particular you have to get it, or is it good? Do you have to go to the Cove Cafe?
You can go to the Cove, or is it the Vista that's there in the atrium? They knew what I was going to order every night. So they almost had it ready for me.
That is fantastic. All right. Favorite meal or favorite entree? Let's revert back. Favorite appetizer?
Oh, I'm blanking. This is so sad.
Did you talk about the truffles?
The pasta, what was it? The truffle persets at Animators are pretty good. They're not my favorite though. I love pretty much anything seafood. So if you give me like the lobster and shrimp, usually I'll order like 5 of them because they're very small. I am also a fan of, there's like the tuna avocado tower. That's delicious if you're into tuna. I know that's not for everybody. There's so many others that I love, but I'm one of those people who usually orders 2 or 3 appetizers and then hardly eats my entree, but their apps are like pretty much all of them are great.
And what would be your favorite entree?
The sea bass with the pea risotto. It is buttery and delicious and it melts in your mouth. And then that's the restaurant, I think it's Royal Palace that has that one. And that's the one where they also have the scallops and I usually can't decide. So I get both.
Nice.
All right. Favorite Disney movie to watch on the Funnel Vision, which I know you're not normally there because all the kids are around there and Christy and I are hanging out there. But if you're going to watch, what movie would you want to see up there? You're a fan of the classics, it sounds like. Maybe.
I am, but I actually love Moana when I'm on the ship. You know, you find yourself singing all about how the sea is right there.
The sea is calling you.
Yes. So I love I actually really enjoy just kind of sitting and watching for a few minutes, or when you're in line for oh my gosh, I'm blanking on all the names.
That's okay. The beauty of it is that Steve will edit it and he'll be like, when you're waiting in line for the blah, 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 it'll all just flow together.
So when we're waiting in line for the aqueduct, it's really fun to just be able to kind of turn around and watch whatever they have playing. The Moana is a great one, but I also really have enjoyed, they had Robin Hood on there, I think last time, which is not one you often see. And that was one of our family's favorites growing up. So it's just fun to kind of relive some of those childhood memories through Funnel Vision.
I got sucked into Cinderella last time, which I've never seen, which you guys can.
The original one?
The original one. And it was like no, it was in the morning. It was like, it started and I was like, I got sucked into it. The mice came on and everything. And it was just like, it was amazing. I loved it.
It's a classic.
Yeah. I didn't watch the whole thing. No.
Well, now it's on Disney Plus, so you can go watch it there.
You get off the beautiful Disney Dream and Castaway Cay. What is it you love to do?
I go right to Serenity Bay and get a chair and sit there and wait until it's semi-appropriate to order a pina colada.
I love it.
No, I promise I actually don't drink that much on the cruise. You can look at my statements and know that. But there are a few moments where it just is like kind of iconic and you're like, I'm on an island where there's hardly anyone else around and I'm going to have a super fruity, beachy, tropical drink and sit here and read a book or just watch. And that's wonderful. I will say the last time we went on the bikes, and I'd never done that before, and that was actually really fun. I think it was just the right temperature where we weren't like sweating and it wasn't like uphill or anything. So it really wasn't exercise, which I'm always, I'm like, I'm on vacation to relax. I would rather not exercise. It was really, really fun.
Aren't you super jealous of her day at Castaway Cay? She's just relaxing and maybe reading a book. I don't know anything like that.
I know.
Sipping a fruity drink. I love that too.
But it's still not at a cabana. So there's a trade-off.
I don't know. There's something about being like on that beach. Do you bring the chair right down to the water? Mm-hmm. Are you like that? Do you like to do that?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I remember the first time I was like, are we allowed to do that? I'm afraid someone's going to come and like slap my wrist for doing it. It's like, nope, everyone does it and it's wonderful. And that way you've got a bit of the cool water, but you're not, crazy. But it's so shallow. Mm-hmm. You can go incredibly far out and not really even be above like your knees. But it's also gotten shallower since I think the hurricane last fall too. So
we're done with COVID. You're in line at Port Canaveral to get on the Disney Dream again for another 3 or 4 day cruise. But Commodore Tom meets you at the gangplank and says, "Hey, Rebecca, no, you're not allowed on board, but you can go on any of the other ships and anywhere you want to go." Where are you going to go?
I really want to go over to Europe. We've gone there once or twice. Once technically as a family, and did a bit of Spain. And I would love to do that Disney style, where it's like you can actually go to different ports and explore different cities, but you still have that home base of the ship. And so that is a dream of mine. Especially, I think I would probably want to do the cliche like Rome visit and all of that. I don't know, in a dream scenario, I would do Europe and then piggyback it with like a Caribbean 7 night or something like that. But that's very much a dream world.
Well, that's what the question is all about. So
yeah,
it's perfect.
I have actually looked many, many times into the transatlantic, just because, you know, you've got a bunch of sea days and then you actually get to do Europe, but it hasn't worked out. So someday.
Well, I hope it works out for you, because Europe's amazing, and being on board the Magic and maybe someday one of the other ships over there is just a great experience to have. And I guess I did lie. I guess, what's your wish for the wish? What would you, as Rebecca right here now in her 28s, what are you looking forward to have when you get on board the Wish when she finally sails?
I have very few complaints about Disney. So I'm kind of just like, I don't want a lot of change, which sounds maybe really like a cop-out, but I'm a creature of habit, as you guys can probably tell by going on 5 cruises on the Dream. When I find something that I like, I am willing to invest in it and continue with minor shakeups here and there, but still in a comfort zone. So I would really hope that they would still have a lovely atrium. I think for me, that's one of my favorite moments, where it's like I'm sitting there with a drink kind of in between the show and dinner, and just get to watch all the families enjoying it too, and kind of experiencing it through so many different age groups. And, you know, you've got the grandparents, you've got the adults, you've got the newly married couple who's dancing to the Cinderella song, or like, you know, the kids who are just like so excited to meet Mickey. And I think like that for me is really, really, really special. And so I don't want to lose out on kind of that communal experience.
I think that's where you have to end it, Steve.
I think so too. That was so beautiful. I just think that atmosphere that you talked about, how you said it, kind of like that known of the Disney feel, but yet with the calming influence of being around it with the music and everything else. I think that's what we all love about being on those ships. And I'm sure that they're going to knock it out of the park with the Wish.
I do want them to continue with their soundtrack work. Whoever is in charge of that, keep it up. They do an amazing job. Just send me the Spotify playlist, please.
Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Thanks for sharing your experiences on the final sailing of the Dream during the COVID era, but she will be sailing again. And I look forward when all of us can be on her again. So thank you for coming on and sharing your time.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was nice to kind of feel the feels for a little while.
All the best to you. And when you get back on your next sailing, we'd love to have you come back on and talk about your next adventure with Disney Cruise Line.
Yes, the goal is for it to maybe not be the Dream next time.
Well, then you can't join me in December.
True. Maybe we'll have to have a few different ones scheduled. Thanks, y'all.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Rebecca for coming on and sharing her and her family's experiences. They sailed on I hate to say the final sailing, but the last sailing of the Disney Dream before the ship's paused due to the COVID outbreak. And I know all of us out there can't wait for us to kind of get back to the new normal and get the ship sailing again. And if you're kind of following our podcast sequentially, we have got a couple bonus episodes which will be coming out talking about some alternative vacations people have been taking now that the ships have kind of paused through the summer. We're going to take a look at a family that went camping, which bear with me here. That was actually, it's a quick kind of fun episode. We can do it as a trip report, just like we do with the ships. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. And it actually featured some character dining out there in the woods. So a little bit of fun talking about that. And then we take a look at Key West, someplace that our family has always wanted to go. Learn all about the Keys from good friend of the show, Carol. She joins us, and we've got a great look at that for you and your families as well, as you're kind of, if you're thinking about doing some alternative vacations still as we move on into the fall. Key West and the Keys, just a magical place to go. Well, I want to thank everybody who has gone and given us an iTunes review lately. We are going to start reading those on the air. I do apologize. That's something that we haven't really done a great job on, but I want to thank everybody who's taken the time to go and do that. If you have time to do that, that helps us get our show known out in the podcasting community, the cruising community, and the Disney community. So thank you so much for taking the time to go over and do that. If you would like to support our show, you can do so through our Patreon program. You can go over to patreon.com/DCL podcast and learn all about that there. And if you would like to come on our show to talk a little Disney Cruise Line, Run Disney or Adventures by Disney and Run Disney Today 2020, talking September 2020 right now. They just announced that the Marathon Weekend is going virtual. We'll maybe talk about that a little bit in a future episode as well. Kind of sad to see that happen, but I guess kind of inevitable at this time frame. But if you'd like to come on our show and talk to us, reach out to me, Steve at DCLpodcast.com. We'll get you set up and lined up, and we'll have a good time talking a little Disney Cruise Line, Run Disney, or Adventures by Disney. Well, between now and our next show, if you and your family are heading out on your staycation, a vacation, in between the time while the kids are doing their virtual school or just regular school, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, all of us here at the DCL Podcast, we'd like to thank you for coming back and taking a listen, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.